Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Up first, the non-confidence motion from the federal Conservatives is up for a vote today. What does it tell us about where the parties are at when it comes to the possibility of an early election? Plus, what are your thoughts on access to health care? Does it need major reform? Call us on the open line. In half an hour, legendary chef Hidekazu Tojo of Tojo's restaurant in Vancouver is here. We'll talk about his life. We'll make some sushi. He'll take your calls. It's going to be amazing. I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. To Ottawa first, where the Liberal government is facing its first, but likely not the last confidence vote this fall. The non-confidence motion was put forward yesterday by Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. It was not supported, though, by the NDP or the Bloc Québécois. It's expected this afternoon. Debate is underway in the House right now, and it is not expected to pass. But will there be more? Joining me now is SFU Political Science Senior Lecturer Sanjay Jaram. Hello there. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Michelle.
Well, tell us, so this came after the NDP broke their confidence in supply agreement with the Liberal government, and then Pierre Poilievre promised he would put this forward. What kind of position does this put the Liberal government in as we get started with this fall sitting?
It obviously puts them in a defensive position, but there is a scenario that potentially it could end up working in their favor, because obviously it's a bold move by the Conservatives to do so, because they did not have any sort of guarantees from other parties that they would vote with them on the non-confidence motion. In fact, the Bloc and NDP leaders have both rebuffed their requests. So at this point, as you said in the opening, it's more than likely not going to pass. They do have the opportunity again quite soon, when they have control of the agenda on a future legislative session, to do it again. And there's been sort of hints that Pierre Poilievre said he would do it again. But I wonder, though, if it sort of seems like a political stunt, would there sort of be a backlash against it if it's done a second or maybe a third time? So that's something to watch. It's sort of an unprecedented situation. I can't recall a scenario in sort of my political history or my history of watching politics, thinking about when there's been a sort of consecutive non-confidence motions or an attempt to keep doing it, even without a guarantee that it would pass. So you wonder if this could, it's putting them on the defensive, but it also could backfire potentially as well. So it's hard to really know at this point.
Well, it's interesting because, one of the possibilities appears to be coming with this demand now from the Bloc Québécois, right? So this morning, we heard from Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet saying we have these demands, and these demands are to pass or send to royal assent two private members' bills that have been put forward by Bloc Québécois members. One is to do with the OAS and increasing supports for younger seniors. Another is to do with supply-managed industries and upcoming trade talks. So he's putting these forward, saying, okay, if this doesn't happen, or they don't get addressed by a certain date, which is October 29th, we will go ahead with discussions with the Conservatives on a possible non-confidence motion. So what do you think of that?
Well, he's an astute politician, no doubt. Whether the threat that he would go ahead with negotiations with the Conservatives is real or not is hard to say, and what he believes he can gain with the Conservatives, and if those particular pieces of legislation are sort of core goals for the party right now, you'd have to wonder, would Pierre Poilievre cede to them and be seen as perhaps be seen as weak on a demand to Quebec, which may not play well with the Western base of the party if that kind of negotiation or that kind of stipulation was put to the Conservatives as a necessity for Bloc support in a non-confidence vote. So at this point, that just sounds like conjecture to me. I don't know that Mr. Blanchet really has what he has up his sleeve. I would take that cautiously.
Is it kind of like this is my opportunity to negotiate for something that my party wants?
Absolutely. This is how the Bloc's role in the House of Commons is that they obviously cannot form government. They have no intention to form government, and so the way that they get things for Quebec and for their voters is to try to just these scenarios, right? To try, hoping for minority governments and trying to use leverage and pitch the two major parties against each other. We've seen this in various times throughout the bloc's history when there's been these opportunities. And I think Mr. Blanchet in particular, his record has been that he's been, fairly a fairly astute politician who's willing to sort of do this and play politics with a capital P, essentially, when the opportunity arises. So this is not, to me, is not very surprising at all.
Health Minister Mark Holland, he was caught by reporters as he was leaving a Liberal caucus meeting this morning. And he was asked about that, and he sort of said, we don't want to be going into this situation where it's, it's ultimatums, basically. We're getting these ultimatums. We need to get on with the business of government. I'm paraphrasing there. But is that a fair a reaction or response, do you think, sort of saying we want to avoid this constant back and forth, and this will take away from the business of government?
I mean, I think that's not unreasonable. I think, but the reality is that the NDP walked away from that supplier confidence agreement. Again, even that agreement, I think there's a misunderstanding of perhaps how strong it was, even on paper, in the sense that there was obviously never. It was never binding in the sense that the NDP could walk away from any time. So if you really, there was sort of a goodwill underneath it that the NDP would not sort of pull the plug without sort of advance warning. But that's really all it was. And so, to some extent, as we think back about pharmacare and other pieces of legislation that the NDP and Liberals worked together on, this situation, perhaps it was a little less stark, but the situation has been in place for quite a while. So what Mr. Holland is saying, I mean, yeah, I think it's a plea for maybe for public support or trying to turn public opinion against the idea of having an election, perhaps to sort of point out the consequences of that for the daily business of government. But I don't think it's really not some sort of new, drastically different situation. We could have had an election at many points during this minority government. That's just how minority governments in Canada work. So.
It's always that sort of issue by issue. We'll see how it goes, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Can I ask you about the tenor in the House right now? Yesterday during debate, the House Speaker had to interrupt several times to call MPs to order. We've seen, some scenarios where the NDP leader kind of was yelled at the Conservative leader from the floor, and he was laughed at. Jagmeet Singh was laughed at yesterday, or pardon me, earlier this week. I mean, what do you make of what the debate is like and the tenor of debate among the party members and leaders?
It's obviously the civility has been decreasing, but this isn't that new. I think we've seen all the leaders to some extent engage in this kind of rhetoric, sort of high-charged rhetoric with a bit of some personal attacks. Again, all have done it. If you really look through the record, it's not like any one particular politician is to blame here. Again, it's not my role to start, saying who started this. But I think for the public watching it, it's obviously not. It doesn't reflect well on our politicians. And when hopeful that you would hope that the speaker could keep better control of the situation, but obviously that's not working out that way. So to me, when I look at this, if I'm sort of just a member of the voting public, I would expect more from my politicians and hope that in the future, whoever party governs might think of what kind of rules do we want around this, and what kind of House of Commons do we want, and what do we want the relationships between parties to be? We understand that we have to have an official opposition and other parties to critique the government, but certainly a better way to do it than this.
All right, Sanjay. More opportunities for the Conservatives. They are leading in the polls to table a non-confidence motion. The next opposition day is next Thursday. 3 more chances until the Christmas holidays. What should members of the public, you're talking about members of the public watching the debate and the tenor there, what should they be watching for over these next couple of months then?
Well, again, like you just mentioned, you just laid out the number of times that we have opportunities to perhaps be back here again, assuming that today that things hold as the Bloc and NDP leaders have essentially not committed. Anything can change once the vote starts, but effectively expressed their opinions already. So we're probably not going to have an election, a writ drop soon. Or sorry, we might have it soon, but not because of the vote today. And the next sessions, we'll see. I'm curious. I'm very curious to see if Poilievre just does it again and again, and tries to, as a political sort of maneuvering, to sort of try to push his weight around because he has such strong support in the public to keep making the argument that indeed, since he has public support, according to the polls, that he should be prime minister, and therefore withholding an election is in fact sort of withhold or pushing back against the will of the people. I think that's effectively what the argument that he's trying to make in different ways, and with the sort of actions of having a non-confidence vote, saying that, well, what we see is that the public has no confidence in the government, so we should have an election. And you wonder, will any of the other parties at a certain point either accede to that argument for either their own strategic regions, or for a more sort of argument, maybe for a reason in support of the greater good, say, yeah, you know what, we should have an election because clearly the public wants one. Again, that's remains to be seen. It would be definitely an unprecedented situation if he was able to sort of push his way in an election like that. We don't really see that too much in a parliamentary system.
Oh, your curiosity is piqued. Thank you very much. We're going to continue to watch, of course, the debates just started in the House of Commons, and we'll continue to watch that this afternoon and see what does take place when it comes to that vote. Sanjay Jaram, thank you for your time.
You're very welcome. Thanks, Michelle.
Sanjay Jaram, Senior Lecturer in Political Science at Simon Fraser University. It's 17 minutes past 12 o'clock. We have an email from Janet who writes, "The world and life in Canada seems increasingly insecure these days. I think everyone should calm down and all federal government parties should work together." Thank you for that email, Janet. And meanwhile, as we've been talking about, Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet did make those two demands of the government to pass or get royal assent for two private members' bills, one to do with OAS payments for younger seniors, another to do with supply managed industries and trade talks. Now, Blanchet was asked this morning by reporters whether he was in talks with the Liberals over these demands, and here was his response.
It is a friendly specialty of the Liberals to say that they are having discussions and that everybody is their close friends. So far, there's been very little discussions, and as you see, there's not so much room for discussion.
That is Yves-François Blanchet, leader of the Bloc Québécois. Now, the Liberal government wouldn't necessarily fail if the Bloc pulls that support. Justin Trudeau could convince the NDP to back him up again. A lot of different maneuvering, perhaps, as we heard from our political science guest there. So we'll continue to follow this story on all our platforms right here on CBC. Stay tuned. To healthcare now. Of course, one of the biggest issues in this provincial election. We're asking you, what reforms do you think are needed in the healthcare system? And should BC consider more private healthcare? You can give us a call, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. And have you had trouble accessing healthcare in your own life? We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what your experience has been in accessing healthcare. Again, it's 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can also email us. That's bctoday@cbc.ca. And James writes, "I think the best approach would be to have teams of health professionals at clinics in communities. And the team would be doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, physiotherapists, massage therapists, and whatever else is needed. Because often foot, leg, back, neck, and neck pain, etc., can be assisted with physio and massage versus painkillers. It needs to be more holistic. I can't tell you how many times I've gone with a problem, been given a painkiller without asking for one, and thrown the prescription in the garbage, and then had a massage or physio or a stretching program, and I was fine. I think healthcare workers need to stop telling seniors it's because of age. And I think a lot of health conditions are missed because of assuming that. Yeah, thank you very much for your email, James, the BC Today at cbc.ca. Well, some new things. A new survey out today that finds Canadians are demanding change in healthcare. The poll is from Navigator's Research Division, and it suggests people say access is a major concern, with nearly half of Canadians saying their access to public health care has worsened in the last few years. Almost two-thirds have experienced what they called unreasonable waits. The poll also suggests that Canadians are increasingly receptive to reforming healthcare, and that includes private sector involvement. We'll get into how healthcare is playing out into this provincial election as well. So here are some of the promises from the three parties when it comes to healthcare. Yesterday, NDP leader David Eby was in Terrace and promised to add to hospital upgrades and builds that his party has undertaken. And the NDP has touted fast-tracking licenses for doctors and nurses, as well as a new medical school in Surrey. The BC Greens have said they want to establish community health centres in all 93 ridings in BC to replace the current network of urgent and primary care centres. And the BC Conservative leader John Rustad has said he would establish guaranteed wait times for medical services and increase the use of private clinics. Oh, we'd love to hear from you. What do you think of those ideas? And what are the reforms that you want to see when it comes to the healthcare system? Should BC consider more private healthcare? And what's been your experience in accessing the system? Our number again, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Our email as well, bctoday@cbc.ca. Well, Dr. Rita McCracken is an assistant professor at UBC's Department of Family Practice, and she was on the early edition this morning and on your morning shows locally as well. She spoke to the Conservatives' promises and says privatization only benefits a wealthy subsection of society.
And the rest of society experiences increased cost to the system overall and reduced access. That is absolutely clear. We don't need any more studies to tell us that. We have a mountain of evidence that says that when you invest more in private, a small subsection of society benefits and everybody else loses.
That's Dr. Rita McCracken, and we're asking you what reforms are needed in the healthcare system. Lance is on the line in Summerland. Hi there, Lance.
Hi, wow, I'm so thrilled to be on your show. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you very much for being here. Thanks for calling in. What's your experience with accessing healthcare?
Okay, well, 15 years ago, I was a BC Ministry of Tourism manager of an outdoor hot springs. I happened to get bit by a tick. I happened to get Lyme disease. And 15 years later, I just saw the infectious disease specialist in Vancouver in person. And that's being worked on right now. However, with respect to Lyme disease, I mean, it just has to be overhauled completely because the tests, according to the Canadian Lyme Disease Foundation, are kind of a 50% coin toss, whether it is accurate or not. And
there's still not much known about it, is there?
Well, there's a lot known about it, but there's no will on the side of the healthcare authorities to reform it. They're still back in the 80s when it first got discovered as far as their current approach. Like they're just saying Lyme disease is cured in 2 to 4 weeks with antibiotics, no questions asked, no conversation to be had, which doesn't turn out to be the reality of the situation. And if I might, I just want to bring attention to me having this sort of new version of Lyme disease, which, according to statistics, it only affects 6% of all people with Lyme disease. It's called filamentous borrelial dermatitis, which is a mouthful. So they call it Morgellons disease because they didn't know it was caused by Lyme disease until later. So they just came up with that name. The big point about Morgellons, which I have, and I'm a human test subject in 2 scientific studies, so everything I say is just backed up by science. But anybody who gets these symptoms, who reports them to their doctors, they are automatically diagnosed with a psychiatric delusional disorder and prescribed antipsychotic drugs. And
Because it's not believed. Is that
right? And why is it not believed? Because this so-called condition, Morgellons, if you look it up, what happens is the Lyme disease bacteria attacks the skin. It causes fibers to grow from the skin, which, believe it or not, are red, white, blue, and clear.
I'm going to jump in here because it does sound like you've been through a lot, trying to get your diagnosis, trying to get treatment. My goodness, and you're involved in these studies now. But, I take your point. The numbers of Lyme disease cases are climbing in Canada. That's been reported over this summer. And your point is about accessing, first of all, proper diagnosis and understanding when it comes to Lyme disease and the healthcare system, but also the new types of Lyme disease. And you've really been through a lot. Thank you very much for calling. I do have to move on to our next caller now, Susan in Vancouver. Susan, what are your thoughts about reforming healthcare? What would you like to see change, if anything?
I actually am one of maybe the few people that will call in today and just say how satisfied I am with our healthcare. I've had some health issues with my heart, and I received excellent care and no complaints at all. And my daughter, she was diagnosed with cancer in 2019, and she had 3 years of excellent care through the cancer agency in Vancouver. And thank goodness she's cancer-free. But, I've just experienced so many good things, and it's completely the opposite when I talk to my friends that live in the U.S. They're just blown away when I tell them, like my daughter's medication was $800 a day for 3 years. And they're just like, she probably wouldn't even be alive if, you lived in the U.S. because, to be able to cover that, like the costs. So I'm very happy with our medical system. And I know I'm probably one of the few, but I just wanted to share that.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. And so when you hear things need to change, you're thinking it's worked well for you anyway in your experience.
It's worked well for me. I know there are other people it hasn't. And, my heart goes out to them because, some of the stories you hear are pretty traumatizing, but I've had very good success. So,
Susan, really glad to hear it. All the best to you and your daughter.
Thank you very much.
Take care. And Cole is our final caller on this in Vancouver. Hi, Cole. What would you change, if anything, about the healthcare system?
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I've lived in Vancouver for coming on 4 years now, and I have not been able to get a family doctor at all. So anytime I need medical care, it's either an urgent care or if it's bad enough, going and waiting all day in the emergency room. That's been really, really hard, especially for myself. I have medical issues that need constant follow-ups and levels being checked. So for not being able to have a family doctor, for those results to be sent to and getting medications prescribed, like it's a real pain. And then I see it really made my blood boil kind of the other day seeing Justin Trudeau on Stephen Colbert, and he was kind of bragging about how, you should have universal health care in the States. And it got a big laugh out of the audience. I'm like, well, millions of us in Canada don't have universal health care. Like we don't have that anyway. So it kind of made me a little bit upset to hear that.
Yeah, I'm sorry for that. You're right. You need, when it comes to your need for consistency, because if you have a chronic condition and there are reports that need to be sent to, where do you send that? So that issue of the family doctor still lacking for you, Cole. I'm sorry to hear that. Thanks so much for calling.
Yeah, have a good day.
You too. That's Cole in Vancouver, the issue of lack of family doctors. John is, let's squeeze in John from Esquimalt. Hi there, John.
Hello.
Hi, what's your experience? What do you think needs to change in healthcare?
Well, the biggest single thing is no more privatization. Why would we want to hire nurses and doctors that are in the private sector and pay twice as much? Is that the madness that's stopping this system from operating? I managed to get in Esquimalt here diagnosed for cancer, but I don't have a GP to talk to. The surgeon told me I had cancer, but now what do I do?
Yeah.
And when I did get a hold of a GP after playing telephone tag, I was able to get my meds renewed. I had to choose. So it's putting a lot of people in a very difficult situation.
I can imagine. Yeah. And again, you're needing consistency in care as well without having a family doctor. Yeah.
Yes.
John, thank you very much. All the best to you, okay? Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Take care. We're actually on TikTok right now too, and we have some comments here. SLK writes, please do mental health better. And Red Poppy writes, my daughter has waited for a doctor in BC for 7 years. 7 years. Thank you for sharing that. Let's just play a clip here as well now from Dr. McCracken commenting on a plan from the NDP that would expand when pharmacists can prescribe medication. Here's what she had to say about that.
When a child, for example, is unwell, particularly a child under the age of 4, and we imagine that they have strep throat, there is a very comprehensive assessment that a medical professional typically does to be able to understand whether or not that child needs antibiotics is one of the important components, but also are they hydrated enough? And do they need other supports like would be provided in the hospital? And so while I am open to the idea of pharmacists expanding their scope, I am very leery about us doing that without some checks and balances.
That's family doctor, Dr. Rita McCracken. More comments on TikTok. Susu writes, we have more pet clinics than walk-in clinics. Kamloops does not have a single clinic. Genevieve writes on TikTok, it's great if you live in Vancouver, but not in the burbs. You can keep them coming too on TikTok. You can email us bctoday@cbc.ca. Thanks for all of your calls and your comments on this. Coming up in our next half hour on BC Today, thank you very much for being with us. We're going to have a little fun because we have the legendary chef Tojo in the house. We're going to talk about his life. There's a new film about his life and legacy, and we're going to make some food. It smells really good in here. Right now, it's 12:33, time for a CBC News update. And here's Rob Zimmerman.
Good afternoon. NDP leader David Eby says a newly announced housing plan would help middle-income families break into the market with a loan from the province that would cover 40% of the home's market price. Eby says the plan commits nearly $1.3 billion a year in financing for first-time buyers through the development of up to 25,000 new units over 5 years. It says buyers would need to come up with the remaining 60% of the financing and pay interest on the loan from the province. The BC Greens are promising a more robust carbon tax if they form government. Leader Sonia Furstenau says putting a price on carbon is a common sense way to help create a sustainable economy and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Furstenau says her plan would see the biggest polluters pay more, while the average family would get bigger refunds. And talks are resuming today to get Metro Vancouver grain terminal workers back on the job. More than 600 employees started striking yesterday, bringing grain exports to a halt. The industry says it could cost up to $35 million a day in lost exports. And now the forecast on the North Coast. Showers this afternoon with a high of 12. Highs to 17 and cloudy in the Peace. In the central interior, including Prince George, showers with a high of 12 as well. Highs up to 27 with showers in the West Kootenay, a bit of sunshine in the East Kootenay. In the southern interior, including Kelowna, a high of 26 with showers and the risk of severe thunderstorms. And more rain this afternoon in the Fraser Valley. Some sunshine in Metro Vancouver and Greater Victoria with highs around 16. That's your CBC News update from Vancouver.
Rob, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We were talking about bears yesterday on the show and what happens if you come across a bear. There was a video of a man in Coquitlam who found a bear in his garage.
I saw that.
Yeah, you saw that. And so there's a bit of a debate around what to do. We asked people what they do and what their advice is. And we had a guest say, just keep calm, speak loudly and firmly, because bears actually recognize humans by the sound of our voice. I did not know that. But Carol Ann wrote from Roberts Creek. She says she uses our show to ward the bears off on her daily run. So she takes a portable radio with her. And she writes, I turn it up good and loud on BC Today, but a couple of days ago, I put something in my car. I did not take my radio, and about 3 meters away on my deck, I saw a bear staring at me.
Wow.
I slowly turned and walked back to the door. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. So apparently my voice can ward off bears.
Yeah, that should be part of our PR campaign, shouldn't it? Yeah. A bear
Stay
deterrent?
safe.
Yeah.
Stay safe.
That's
Listen
right.
to BC Today. That's good to know. Hopefully it doesn't ward off humans. That would be.
That would be counterproductive.
That
for
would
sure.
not
Yeah.
be the
No,
goal
no.
of the show. And also someone wrote, as Shelby wrote about hiking. She says she's seen a lot of people hiking recently with Bluetooth headphones in. Just a reminder, it's a good idea to keep those earphones out and be aware because, yeah, it is very busy this time of year.
Interesting.
Yeah, so keep the headphones out, but take a portable radio and listen to our show. That's,
sure.
That's the upshot.
Yep. Good
Rob,
call.
Thanks very much. Stay safe. That's Rob Zimmerman in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. Well, a new documentary on the life and legacy of beloved Vancouver chef Hidekazu Tojo is premiering next week at the Vancouver International Film Festival. Now, Chef Tojo put Vancouver on the map with his restaurant Tojo's and his invention of the California roll back in the 1980s. And at 70 years young, he continues to innovate and delight his patrons with his creations. I am thrilled to welcome the chef here in our studio today and the filmmaker behind this documentary. And you can call us, you can comment on TikTok, send us an email, let us know, is there something you've always wanted to know about what it's like to make sushi? What does it take to make sushi? And let us know too, what is your favorite kind of sushi? We all know Vancouverites, British Columbians, we're kind of experts now at sushi, right? We are all fans. I would say I'm a huge fan, but do you have a favorite kind? Do you go classic? Do you go, inventive? Do you like different kinds of things in your sushi rolls? Let us know. 1-800-825-5950. 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone as well. Our email, bctoday@cbc.ca. And if you're watching us on TikTok at CBC Vancouver, we have a TikTok live going on right now. Send us your comment there too. We love to hear from you there. I am joined now by Chef Tojo and Vancouver filmmaker Matsuke Bakuvo. Welcome. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Oh, what an honor, a real honor. I've watched your career for so long. And it's just, I've seen you on various different shows, on Anthony Bourdain's show and just all throughout the years I've been to your restaurant. So it's a real honor to be here. What's it like to have a movie made of you?
Yes, today I'm, mad, making my background documentary, and same time I created 2 new dishes.
Wow.
So my favorite fruit is the apple, and also I use the local scallop and crab, and also new sushi here. This is a very traditional mackerel.
Yes, I can smell it.
Yeah, I training in Osaka, very traditional way, but here this is a Canadian sable fish. Instead, it's a mackerel.
Aha.
So this is a very, very super good.
I think so, yeah. You kind of got like a little microcosm of the entire film here on the plate in front of you. Well, not just the film, but your life,
Yes.
which the film is about.
We do have a clip from the film too. Matt's new film is The Chef and the Daruma. And it takes us from Chef Tojo's early days as a Japanese immigrant in Vancouver to his meteoric rise as a pioneering chef to today as Chef Tojo returns to Japan to connect with local food trends there, all with an eye on how he can continue to innovate. And here's the trailer.
This place right here, Tojo's, is the hottest rock and roll hangout in all of Vancouver. You want to see? We'll show you.
Like my wife, they didn't like the green seaweed. So what Tojo did was he took avocado and cooked crab and he rolled them with mayonnaise inside out. And that was the first California roll.
Everyone who eats here knows it is the character of the man that makes this place so unique.
Some of these restaurants sport camp followers who follow their favorite chefs from place to place.
Now that trailer, oh my goodness, the characters. First of all, that was Terry David Mulligan at the top there, kind of saying this is a rock star chef right now. You also had clips of Martha Stewart, just images of Hulk Hogan and Martha Stewart.
All the greats.
The late great Anthony Bourdain there too. I mean, you just have celebrities going into your restaurants all the time?
So I don't know, but we are foodie people.
Yeah.
They included a celebrity, you know.
Mats, what did you learn about Chef Tojo making this film?
What did I learn about Chef Tojo making this film? I mean, what did I not learn? I think, something that Tojo was very open with was just giving us access to his entire life story, to kind of just like lay himself bare, raw, like the sushi he makes. And it's hard to kind of narrow it down in terms of what I learned because, he's lived a long life, and we kind of got access to like every tiny little detail of it.
What made you want to make a film about this chef here?
He, Chef Tojo we first crossed paths when I was making a promo video for when the Michelin Guide came to Vancouver 2 years ago. And as part of it, I interviewed Chef Tojo. And I immediately found him to be just this like incredibly fascinating character, an immaculate raconteur, just like a really warm and interesting human being. And later, when we were filming B-roll at your restaurant, if you remember, we were filming.
So background visuals,
yeah,
that
just
kind of
like
thing.
cooking montages and stuff like that, I noticed that he had one of these little guys up on a high shelf, a Daruma. And that, I think, kind of broke the ice where we started conversing on a more personal level, because I also love Daruma myself.
Well, tell us about it. First, let's describe it here for our audience. Can you tell us what it is you have here? And it looks like you've really put it front and center so people can see them. What are they?
This Daruma. So just like very similar to my life.
Yeah.
Because I'm not always good. Yeah. So sometimes fell down. So Daruma means sometimes fell down, but they come back.
Exactly, yeah.
And also we have, beginning of the year, we have a target. So what would you like to do this year? So we wish, I want to do this way this year.
Exactly.
Then success, then after we burn, then starting again.
Yeah.
So tell us, they look like sort of sculptures of heads with masks on them?
No mask, just it is
just the face.
Yeah, face.
I see.
It's the face of a stern Buddhist monk that you're seeing with like a big old mustache. And it's modeled after like a folklore monk of legends. And what Tojo is saying that the way it works is they come without eyes.
Yes, that's right.
And you are to paint in one eye, set a goal for yourself or make a wish, however you want to put it. You put the Daruma somewhere where it will always be visible to you as a reminder, I have a goal.
What your goal is.
I have a dream. I'm aiming for success.
Yeah, while acknowledging that there are going to be ups and downs in your life. I am going to take a call now because Vicky is joining us from Seychelles. Hi there, Vicky.
Hi.
Hi, thank you so much for calling in. And did you want to talk about Chef Tojo? I think he's looking like he recognizes the name.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't lived in Vancouver since I retired, so about 10 years. But I knew Tojo when I first started going to him when he was on Broadway, east of Canby, on the north side, tiny little place that probably sat maybe 10 or 12 people, and kind of followed him through the years until we moved to Seashell. And he's just fabulous, so creative. He's an artist. He's just fabulous. So I just wanted to say that, and congratulations on him and on the film. I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to see the film. So I wanted to say that. And then you asked about favorite sushi things or
your favorite kind of sushi.
Yeah, well, this is really dating me, but back in the 70s, I used to go to Maniki on East Hastings, and I used to.
I'm starting.
That's where he started.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember Tojo at Maniki, but anyway.
Yeah. He just said so. Yeah.
I used to have something like in English cockles, and this is going to gross people out, but they were so fresh. They were alive when they came on the rice ball. They were still moving. But they were fabulous.
Oh wow!
And I haven't seen them in years at a sushi bar. So I'm just wondering if they're still a thing.
I'm still working.
He's still working. And you still make cockles?
We call this hockey. Some people they say sound like a cockle.
I see.
Yeah.
And tell us, what was it like for you to get started then? So you also worked at this other restaurant. That's where you got started. What was it like to start?
I started Japantown, old Japantown, 342 East Hastings. She said, Maneki restaurant.
Yes, on Broadway.
So I starting there. That time, local, people, they don't eat sushi, sashimi. They said raw fish, seaweed, no. Then, and I moved to Broadway. She said, very tiny restaurant. Then, the people, local people, they don't eat, it's a Japanese raw fish. So I have to break, tradition. Then starting the inside out.
Tell us about that. How did you come up with the idea for the California roll?
Okay, I training in Osaka, seaweed outside.
Yes.
They're just very small thing. Then I'm just only hiding. In Osaka, we call it futomaki. So just only use for inside out. Then, 50% Japanese people say, Tojo, this is great idea for local people. But some 50% Japanese, no, this you're wrong. Yeah. But many people support me. This is the people, local people happy.
They liked it.
Started. Yeah.
So what was it about just having the rice on the outside sort of made it more recognizable?
Yeah, and also I asked you why you don't eat the no tuna raw fish, but they eat cooked, tuna. They eat the tuna can. It's a can salmon.
Yes.
But everything cooked, they eat. So that's why I use cooked seafood inside. Then people love it.
Do people come to your restaurant and ask for the famous? Yeah.
Then, of course, the people from all over. Tojo, can you make it? I had the other restaurant in the inside out. Can you make something different? Yeah, that's my talent. So I'm very interesting. That's why I keep going new dish all the time.
Right, and that's why you continue to innovate. What was it like? Is that part of the lore of the film?
Yeah, the sort of Trojan horse nature of Tojo's cooking is definitely a big focus of the film.
Yeah.
It is that whole idea of you're not necessarily tricking people into eating sushi or whatever, but at the same time you kind of are, right? People are so afraid to try new things until it gets presented to them in this poppy, fun, cool, hip, new and trendy kind of package. So yeah, the film definitely traces the journey of sushi as something that was seen as kind of like unappetizing and foreign to something that became cool and hip and young and something that all the glitterati wanted to try.
It's so hard to imagine now that not wanting to eat sushi. We have an email here. Barbara writes, I lived in Japan for 5 years, late 80s, early 90s. I like to think what I had was almost perfect, that I had an almost perfect knowledge of what good sushi is. Most importantly, it seems to me that the sushi has to be made by an experienced Japanese chef. Sushi made by non-Japanese trained people just doesn't taste right. There you go. And we have a TikTok comment from Sakura888. Will Tojo plan to prepare real crab meat for his famous California roll?
Of course, you don't. Because I know everything we are, all, much possible use local produce, all organic. Only I think my restaurant uses all real one.
I've seen footage of you going to the fishmonger.
Yeah, you wouldn't use imitation crab, surely.
So no, my mind, no, just everything real one.
See, it's not even a thought to not have real crab.
Even ginger. Look at that. This is the local ginger. Local my producer I make ginger.
Wow. It's
you try that. This is very different.
Well, tell us about what you have here, because this was it was born out of the film as well. You wanted to talk about the Daruma cup that you've made. Tell us about that.
So this one.
Let's maybe put it here so we can see it.
Put it in the center.
Just right here. Yeah. Awesome.
I like here. Maybe here.
Yes. Right up front and center.
Because it's apple is my favorite fruit.
Yeah.
Because I was born southern part of Japan. We don't see no much the apple, but daruma and the apple, and also this season good matching.
Is it?
Because citrus is a local scallop, Dungeness crab, daikon radish, carrot.
Yes.
So this is marinated with vinaigrette with honey.
So you've hollowed out the apple. You sliced off the top and hollowed it out.
Yeah, make it a hole, yes.
Yes, and you filled it with just delicious looking things, I'm going to say.
This is very, very delicate.
Yes.
So this already is a seasoning, marinated. I put here, little bit is a garnish.
So pickled carrots.
Yeah, pickled carrot.
Pickled daikon.
This is
pickled radish.
Yuzu skin, lemon skin is fine too. Then I put a little bit garnish for shiso leaf.
And what kind of fish is that inside then?
So scallop and Dungeness crab, all local. Then local apple.
You are a big proponent of local.
Yeah,
right?
I like use much possible use local number one.
Yeah, that was definitely
that is my
focus,
philosophy.
Yeah. That was a lot of what you spoke about in the Michelin guide interview. I remember always eat local.
Yeah, I like because the people from yesterday very interesting story. People from Germany, there's a sushi business said. So many people said they go ask to many people where is the best place to eat sushi, Japanese food. But everybody said the Tojo. Then, I asked to customer, where you come from? Oh, Germany. What do you do? We are chef.
Wow.
Okay. Try local first.
Yeah.
Then your memory.
Yes.
Then you have a good idea.
Yes, that will be, you feel connected to where you visited. Let's take a call here from Austin in North Vancouver. Hi, Austin. Hi, thank you for calling in. Now, tell us about your fandom of Chef Tojo, it sounds like.
Yeah, I've been a fan for a long time. I've gone to a couple different restaurants he's worked at, and I've been a huge sushi fan since I was 5 years old. My first sushi that I tried was taco, and I've ordered taco nigiri ever since. And I love the new innovations that Chef Tojo's working on, and I just wanted to hear more about like some of the traditional dishes that inspire him and kind of what his innovations are that he's thinking of around them, and just kind of hear more about that because he's amazing.
Yeah, oh, wonderful. Yes, where do you draw your inspiration from? What classic sushi dishes?
Okay, because I'm very hard training when apprentice time. So I ask to many senior people. I go to many different restaurants. Of course, it's a good idea. So I don't want to copy. I like my style. So that's why make it a new dish. I don't want to no copy. That's shame. Because a chef copy is a shame.
Well, you have.
That's my opinion.
I don't think anybody could accuse you of copying. Tell us about this new innovation you have here.
This so best. One of the best because it's a local. Okay, this traditional one is a macro.
Yes.
But this sushi stay for maybe 2-3 days, no problem because already marinated.
Yes.
So I show you.
Slicing up the roll
slicing
into
here,
pieces.
maybe here. This is traditional one.
Yes.
Osaka. This is a Canadian Vancouver Tojo style. Then I like to garnish. In Japan, they don't do that. I like to put this garnish here.
And what are you putting on top there? Like
This is the
pickled
ginger. Now, pickle, this is the cucumber. And this is pickle ginger.
It's beautiful. I mean, what you have there is beautiful. It's a roll with what is traditionally mackerel.
Yeah, mackerel.
Yeah, but you've made it Canadian Tojo
Yeah,
stuff.
this is a Canadian. You try that.
I will try it.
And also, this one, you don't need soy sauce.
No, I don't.
No soy sauce,
because
no
you
wasabi.
created it in your style. Chef Tojo and Mats, what a pleasure to have you both. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful to have you both. That's Chef Hidekazu Tojo, yes, and a new film about him, and filmmaker Mats Bakewold. And the chef and the Daruma will play at the Vancouver International Film Festival, September 30th to October 6th. I'm going to take a piece of this lovely sushi.
Yeah, you start this, It's a traditional Osaka.
Oh my goodness,
That's
it's
the
so
Osaka one.
soft.
Looks great.
So tender.
So tender.
So many people, this is good for